My name is Martha Grayson. I'm 62 years old. I live in a small house on the outskirts of Boulder, Colorado. I have a dog named Sandy, an old pickup truck, and a photo album I guard like my heart. It sits on the top shelf. Thick beige fabric cover, gold corners now chipped. That album holds my whole lifer, at least the part I carry like both a medal and a wound. I turn the pages. There's Tyler Misona's, a baby, wrapped in a blanket I sewed myself, late at night after shifts at the school library. He'd sleep on my chest, and I'd barely breathe, afraid to wake him. Next him on a tricycle, I remember him crashing into the trash bin crying, then saying stubbornly, "I'll learn anyway." He was stubborn, just like me. We lived in a rented apartment in Lafayette. One room and all we had was a kitchen table, 2 beds, and a library card. I taught during the day and cleaned offices in Denver at night. Sometimes I came home so late I'd just sit on the floor beside his bed watching him sleep. And I'd think, for you, everything for you. When he turned 15, he said, "Mom, you're my hero." I laughed, waved it off. "Oh, Tyler, heroes are firefighters or soldiers." But he looked at me so seriously and said, "Number heroes are the ones who never give up." That line stuck inside me. I held on to it when I sold my wedding ring to pay for his SAT prep. When I skipped new shoes so he'd have a decent suit for prom. When I picked up double shifts to pay his college tuition. He got into the University of Colorado. That was the proudest day of my life. I remember us standing by the entrance, me holding a box of his books, and he suddenly said, "Mom, you don't have to work so hard anymore." And I answered, "Too late. I don't know how to do anything else." I flipped the page. Graduation. Tyler in his gown and cap, diploma in hand. He's smiling. I'm beside him, in a simple dark dress I made from an old skirt. He kissed my cheek in front of everyone. Said, "You're the best mom in the world." And I thought, it was all worth it. But then, something changed. At first, the calls got less frequent, then shorter. Then came Lily. From San Diego, from money. Beautiful, put together, expensive gloss on her lips, and a perfume so heavy it gave me a headache. I tried to be polite. I brought her a pie the first time she came over, the pumpkin one Tyler always loved on Thanksgiving. She said, "Oh, I'm gluten-free, but thanks." She didn't touch it. After that, I was invited less and less. First, the family dinners. It's just her parents this time. Then, holidays. We're going to Palm Springs, just the 2 of us. Then, nothing. When the wedding invite finally came, printed font, no signature, no note, just, "Martha Grayson is cordially invited to the wedding of Tyler and Lily." I understood. He doesn't call me a hero anymore. He just calls me when he has to, or when it would look bad not to. I look at this old album. It smells like ink, dust, and ache. And what I feel isn't anger. It's not anger. It's like someone wiped their feet on the mat with your name on it. And you just pick up the mat. So no one can ever do it again. The letter came on a Wednesday. A plain white envelope, no return address, seal already starting to peel. I thought maybe a bill. Or some junk mail. But when I opened it and saw the shimmering champagne-colored card, I knew. The wedding? I ran my fingers over the cardstock. Thick, glossy paper, printed in a sleek typeface like a brochure from a luxury boutique. The groom's name, Tyler James Grayson. The bride's, Lillian Catherine Bennett. The name Grayson rang out formal, like something from a credit report, not the name of my son. I searched for my own name, hoping for a single handwritten note. Maybe Mom, or even just Martha. But at the bottom corner, in careful cursive print, Martha Grayson. Misspelled, with an E, not an A. Like a stranger's name. Like someone you invite out of obligation, not affection. I sat with the envelope in my hands for a long time. It grew cold like stone. I thought, maybe they were rushing. Maybe it's just a typo. Happens, right? But something inside me already knew. It wasn't a mistake. It was a signal. He's become so official, so distant. I set the card on the table, poured myself some tea, and turned on the television. A cooking show played in the background. I couldn't even hear what they were saying. I just stared at my phone and wondered, should I call? Two Marthas wrestled inside me. One, the mother who raised him, washed his shirts late into the night, paid off his credit bills when he couldn't make ends meet at his first job. And the other, the woman who hadn't gotten a call just because in years. Finally, I dialed. She answered. Lily. Hello? Her voice was flat, almost mechanical. It's Martha, I tried to sound gentle. I got your invitation. Thank you. There's a small typo in the name, I think. Oh yes, probably the printer. We ordered 100. Sorry, she sounded like someone who apologizes not out of regret, but because they're supposed to. We were trying to keep things simple. No personal details. Simple. As if the groom's mother was a detail you could simplify. As if I wasn't part of the equation. I asked, Are you sure you want me there? A pause. Silence. I could hear someone laughing in the background. Probably one of her friends or family. They always seem to be celebrating. Of course, you can come, if you'd like. It sounded like a formality. Like I was asking to join a dinner party, not my son's wedding. If you'd like. I hung up and sat in silence for several minutes. Sandy, my dog, came over and rested her head on my knees. I stroked her fur and whispered, They're not waiting for me. They just don't want me upset. And then came that strange, painful feeling so hard to name. Not anger. Not even hurt. But like being invited into a house where no one wants to open the door, and you still go. Because once it was yours. I had prepared for this day like it was an exam. Picked out the dress subtle, understated, but elegant. Powdery gray with delicate lace at the collar. I'd once worn it to Tyler's graduation. I knew this wasn't my day. But I still had to be part of it. I arrived by taxi. Driving didn't seem wise when you might need to leave at any moment. At the entrance, a young woman from the planning team greeted me. All tablets and earpieces, like a presidential aide. Your name? Grayson. Martha Grayson. I'm the groom's mother. She scanned the list, gave a quick nod, and pointed toward the hall. Your seat is over there. MG. Table 12. I entered the banquet hall. It was a performance. Gold, cream tones, live music. Guests were settling in at tables adorned with candles and delicate floral arrangements. Every seat looked like a lifestyle shoot, name cards, tiny favors, printed programs. Everyone laughed, hugged, filmed stories. I started looking for my table. 11. 12. There. In the corner. Right by the door that slammed every 20 seconds. The restroom. Men's and women's, right next to each other. There was a stain on the tablecloth. A napkin tossed lazily across the chair. And on the tableau card, MG Blash, MG Blash, MG Blash, MG Blash, MG Blash. Not even my name. Just initials. Like I wasn't a person. Just a footnote. An entry in someone's spreadsheet. To my right, 5 feet away, towered the wedding cake taller than a nightstand. To my left, the kitchen doors swung as waiters carried out plates of lobster. The restroom door banged open in front of me, and out stumbled a teenager unsteady. He reeked of alcohol and lemon gum. He blinked at me, startled. "Oh, sorry, ma'am," he muttered, nearly knocking my chair as he escaped. I exhaled. Behind me, the violin began to play. Somewhere, someone announced, "The couple is entering." I didn't stand. I simply sat. Saturday at that damn table by the toilets. Still. Composed. Back straight. I felt the glances fleeting, guilty. Maybe someone whispered, "That's the groom's mother?" But I stayed silent. I wasn't there to complain. I was there to see my son get married. even if he'd placed me where the guests dried their hands and zipped their flies. With dignity. Because dignity doesn't come from name cards or table positions. It comes from within. And in that moment I decided I would stay seated. Not because I accepted it, but because they needed to know. I see everything. I feel everything. But I will not shrink into a victim. Let them feel the awkwardness. Let them hear the door slam. Let them smell the deodorizer from the restroom. I just sat there. The old, unfashionable mother of the groom. Back straight. Carrying a story they never even bothered to ask. I sat at my place of honor between the restroom and the kitchen doors and watched. No, I didn't pity myself. It was something else. As if I were sitting in a theater. Only I wasn't the actress, I was the audience. Watching a play called The Performed Life. No one from the family came over. More than 30 minutes passed. I saw Lily's girlfriends rush to her squealing, hugging, kissing the air. I saw Tyler being clapped on the back, toasted with champagne. Both of them beamed. Like actors who had memorized every line. Lily glanced at me. Just for a moment. Then pretended to fix her veil and turned away. Deliberately. As if I were some unfortunate technical error in the background. To a smudge on the lens they forgot to crop. I looked at their happiness and saw it for what it was. A performance. She held Tyler's hand, but her fingers were stiff. He smiled, but his eyes darted like a boy afraid of forgetting his lines. A waiter came. Stopped. Looked at my place card. And hesitated. "Excuse me, ma'am. Are you sure this is your seat?" "Yes. Table 12. Initials MG. I'm the groom's mother." He froze, as if he'd been shocked. Then checked his tablet. Scrolled, tapped, sighed. Finally said, "It's just, this table wasn't part of the main layout. It's, overflow seating." Overflow. As if I were a system glitch. A bag that accidentally arrived on the wrong flight. An unconfirmed hotel guest. I nodded. He left. No champagne came. No toast. Not even a glass of water. And I watched. I watched how everything became foreign. How my son became part of a world that had no place for me. Every smile at this wedding was Botoxed. Every hug a rehearsed scene. Even the first dance felt strained. Like they were dancing not for each other but for the cameras, for the posts, for Instagram. People took selfies. Struck poses. One of them even dragged the photographer over to take a photo by the bathroom door. Because, quote, "It's ironic, like art." They laughed. I sat, silent. And then it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. Not an oversight. Not a logistical hiccup. It was a decision. I had been seated here intentionally. As punishment. Or a message. I didn't know what for. For being old? Unfashionable? For not fitting their aesthetic? But something inside me clicked. I wasn't just a guest anymore. I was a witness. And the longer I stayed silent, the louder my presence became. The music faded. People began tapping their glasses with silver spoons, rings, forks. Tyler stood. My boy. My son. He wore a suit that likely cost more than my monthly pension. He looked handsome and stiff, like a mannequin. He adjusted his tie and took the mic. "Thank you all for being here today. This is a special day for both of us." He looked at Lily. She pursed her lips in a coy little smile. The room sighed. "Thank you to my father-in-law, Mr. Hoffman," he continued, "for your support, your guidance, and, of course, for trusting me with your daughter. Thank you to Mrs. Hoffman for your kindness and your amazing apple pies. Thanks to my college friends for never letting me get lost out there." Laughter. Applause. "Thank you, Lily. You've changed my life. You've made me better. With you, I want to build a future. A home. A family. You are my compass. He raised his glass. To love. To the road we start today. Cheers. The room erupted. People rose to their feet, clinked glasses, hugged. And me? I stayed seated. With the same plastic cup of water? The one the waiter gave me earlier when he noticed I had no drink, no place setting. My name wasn't mentioned. Not once. As if I had never existed in his life. As if I hadn't held him through fevers. Hadn't stayed up nights while he struggled with algebra. Hadn't carried his boxes into the dorm. Hadn't sold my family jewelry to cover his final semester. I had been erased. Cut out. Like a bad take from a film. My heart paused. My throat tightened. Like someone had reached inside and squeezed it shut. But I didn't cry. I reached for my cup. Slowly. Deliberately. And took a sip. On camera, that moment will look symbolic. A woman in gray. The corner. Water. A smile. Quiet and terrifyingly real. Because I suddenly understood everything they wanted to say, they already had. With that MG card. With the table by the toilet. And finally with the silence in his toast. And me? I simply smiled. Softly. Almost with pity. Almost with irony. Because they didn't know. None of them knew. I saw everything. I felt everything. And I had planned something they would never forget. While the hall raised its glasses, while the music played, while someone hit play on Tyler's childhood slideshow, I stayed silent. But something inside me stirred. Something ancient. Steely. Female. A different night came to mind. Not as elegant. Not as loud. The year was 2009. A conference room. The smell of burnt coffee and nervous sweat. That year, Lily's father's business Hoffman and Rowe Construction was hanging by a thread. The market had crashed. Bids failed. Subcontractors folded. I remember Edward Hoffman approaching me. Helplessness, pride, and confusion on his face. Martha, he said, we're short. We won't survive. I already owned 25% of the company shares inherited after my husband passed. My husband wasn't just a technician, as his partners now like to phrase it. He had been a co-founder. It was my investment, my legacy. And I made a choice. No fanfare, no conditions. I'll invest, I said, but with one rule: no public thanks, no press, no mentions, just save the company. I didn't want Tyler to know. Didn't want his friends to treat me like the mother with the money. It was never about applause. It was about responsibility. The irony? That money became their safety net. Hoffman and Rowe didn't just survive, they thrived. A new district in Seattle, a government contract, recognition as the state's most reliable contractor. And now, years later, I sit by the restroom, while Mr. and Mrs. Hoffman sit center stage. Lily glows in Vera Wang. Tyler holds a mic and looks through me. They forgot. But I didn't. I looked toward the stage. At Lily, basking in spotlight. At her father, raising a champagne glass with pride. I wondered, how fast would that glass slip from his fingers? If someone reminded him, whose money saved his empire? I wasn't going to make a scene. I was raised better than that. But something had started turning. A key inside me. A door they thought they'd shut now unlocking. And all I had to do was press the right button. I stepped out of the hall. Quietly. No one noticed. No one turned. Well, maybe one waiter did, but he quickly turned back to his tray of oysters. The air outside was crisp. A gentle wind lifted my hair. I inhaled. This wasn't an escape. It was a march. A slow, deliberate exit from a room where there was nothing left to lose. I took out my phone. The screen lit up with an old photo back when Tyler still called me mama and sent postcards instead of emojis. I opened contacts. Scrolled. Found the name Mark Buxton, my attorney, my confidant for over 30 years. Pressed call. Martha, he answered, cheerful as ever, as if it wasn't a Saturday evening. Mark, I said calmly, I need to make some changes. Urgently. Tell Hoffman, I'm withdrawing all financial support, all of it, immediately. Let him find a new investor. I'm no longer their guarantor, no longer their safety net. I'm done being their ghost. A pause on the other end. Then, I'll confirm it Monday. Are you sure? More than sure. And one more thing. I have a check that needs to go to the Bridge for Hope Foundation, in James's memory. We had an agreement, he and I. If the world ever hurt me deeply enough, I'd help the ones who still know what kindness means. I took the envelope from my clutch. The one I'd carried for 2 months. Waiting for the moment my gut would whisper, now. Inside was a check for $250,000. Money I had originally planned to reinvest in Mr. Hoffman's next project. Not anymore. I opened my banking app, scanned the check, pressed send. The screen blinked. Confirmation. And my heart for the first time that evening beat steady. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I simply closed my wallet and shut the door to their world behind me. Better to help those who still remember what gratitude feels like. The music faded, and the moment everyone had been waiting for began the mother-son dance. All eyes turned to Tyler, watching as he took the mic, slowly lifting his gaze, searching the crowd for his mother. But she wasn't there. Tyler's rhythm faltered as he scanned the room with growing unease. Lily, noticing his confusion, leaned in and whispered, "Dance with my mom." A flicker of involuntary glances swept through the guests. A low murmur rippled like a lit fuse winding through the room. Did you hear? Martha was sitting by the restroom. Who? The groom's mother? Yeah, right by the door. Saw her? Can they really treat her like that? And now she's gone like a ghost. The tension thickened. A few guests tried to change the subject: weather, work, gossip, anything. But Tyler's gaze darted anxiously, searching for the one woman who wouldn't appear. That's when Lily stepped onto the dance floor with her mother, a woman in a flawless gown, her smile glazed in porcelain perfection. She led the dance, not just moved but filled the space Martha had left behind. Meanwhile, Martha stood just beyond the hall doors, watching the whole charade, unseen. And inside she laughed. Not loud, just quiet, ironic amusement. She knew this was only the beginning. The reckoning wouldn't come with shouting or scenes. It would come with subtle, precise moves that would quietly dismantle their world from the inside out. The guests had forgotten. Martha was the silent center of gravity, and without her, this celebration could collapse like a house of cards. A week after the wedding, Tyler returns to his elegant, meticulously curated home. A space so perfectly arranged, it feels like it's trying to erase anything that came before. He checks the mailbox. Among glossy catalogs and formal envelopes, one plain white letter. No return address. He hesitates, then opens it. Reads slowly. Out loud. His voice catching just slightly. I'm not angry. I've simply realized you've grown up and made your choice. I'm not part of that choice, but that doesn't mean I've stopped being who I am. Tucked beneath the note, a check. For exactly 1 cent. A gesture not of insult, but of meaning. The signature at the bottom. With love? The woman who raised you. Tyler sinks into the leather armchair. The check rests in his hand, weightless, but heavier than anything he's ever held. It's not revenge. It's a quiet reckoning. A reminder. A mother will not beg to be remembered. She will not plead to be respected. She doesn't need to. She gave him life. And she will not allow that life to forget its origin. Tyler stares ahead. And something shifts. The first flicker of real respect in his eyes. And, just beneath it, a dawning awareness of his own fragility. Evening falls over Martha's ranch. Silence settles across the land, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds. Martha sits in a chair on the porch. In her hands, a cup of hot coffee, steam rising slowly in the cooling air. She gazes at the mountains stretching far into the horizon, and for the first time in years, she feels a peace that isn't borrowed but her own. She remembers the wedding, the table by the restroom, the cold glances, the toast without a name. All of it now, a closed chapter, no longer gripping her. From a neighboring yard, a boy's voice rings out. "Martha." She smiles, turning toward the sound, her voice warm and tinged with quiet humor. "I'm done waiting for a seat at someone else's table." Pause. "I'll build my own." The scene bathes in the light of the setting sun. The camera pulls back slowly. Martha finishes her coffee in silence. Quiet. Not just an ending, but the beginning of something entirely her own.